Look who stopped by. Frequent Rich Eisen Show host.
Hi, fellas.
When I'm not here, my colleague from the NFL Network, NFL Media Group, rocking the team-issued gear, Tom Pelissero.
So here's the thing. I reached out to Erica Booker yesterday saying, hey, I'm actually here. Didn't
Cross
occur
the
to me
street?
till yesterday. I'm right down the street going over to the Chargers.
By
I
the
should
way,
come
thank
in.
you for letting us know that.
No, of course.
Yep.
But then so I immediately went, I have no pants in my bag.
Oh, gosh.
And I have nothing for shirts that doesn't have a logo on it. I got like a couple T-shirts, 3 pairs of shorts, at this point 7 polos left. That's what I got. So I'm a walking advertisement for NFL Network's Inside Training Camp live coverage kicking off again today at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific.
See, here's why I'm a team player, Tom, because on your behalf and on the behalf of your lovely wife and family, I must point out that you do travel with pants. It's the training camp season, so I'm imagining you just wear shorts when you're out in the 100-degree weather.
But I recall
it's not like
at
you're
the
like,
draft when I came in with I was wearing a suit with sneakers.
Yes.
You seemed borderline offended by the amount of ankle I was showing. So I figured if I rocked the entire pasty white bird legs on your show, I might never be invited back.
And again, not to correct you, I wasn't borderline offended. I was flat out offended.
No, you seemed it. I mean, it was about half the segment.
I was way past the border.
We didn't even get to Caleb Williams.
Offense.
It was just look at your ankles right now.
I'm just.
They were out there, Tom. They were
I just
out
look
there.
out for you. So I'm trying to look out for you,
which I appreciate.
So you have yet to go to the Chargers facility.
I'll be at the Bolt.
Got it.
Shortly here, we're hosting the training camp show, and the Insiders is back tonight as well at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific.
Fantastic. Nice. So you have been to the Lions, Packers, Chiefs, and Broncos. Mm-hmm. Let's start with the Broncos. Is this the Bo Nix world? We living in it, or what?
I'll tell you what. I would be extremely surprised, borderline shocked, if Bo Nix is not the starter week 1.
Yeah.
It's everything that Sean Payton was looking for in the quarterback.
How so?
They stood in terms of the coachability. He started more games than anybody ever at the college level. Mm-hmm. Do exactly what you want him to do. Bo Nix moves better than I think a lot of people might think based upon the numbers and all the passes behind the line of scrimmage and all that. Coach's kid. He's going to execute Sean's offense the way that Sean wants it to be run. Listen, I mean, that was a big part of the issue with Russell Wilson was just the adaptability. I mean, we all saw the Russ versus Sean exchanges on the sideline last year
on NFL Network.
Sean is about as smart with offense as anybody out there. Well, if the ball's not coming out in rhythm, you've got a problem. Bo Nix does that. That's one of his strengths. And as much as Jarrett Stidham, from everything I've been told, has had a really good camp. So is Zach Wilson. Actually, there's no planet on which you're going to roll Zach Wilson out there as your week 1 starter. So they're not saying yet who it's going to be. But if you watch practice and you kind of listen to what people are saying, how they're talking about Bo Nix, it's going to be Bo Nix.
Okay, and again, I know you have not been to the Washington camp, but it's the same thing as Jaden Daniels, right?
Jaden Daniels, I saw, was out there with the ones the first day of pads.
Okay.
So really, if you break it down, 6 quarterbacks taken in the top 12 picks.
Yes, sir.
Caleb from about February was QB1 on the Bears depth chart.
Yes.
You can go through the rest of the group here. You're going to have a starter with Bo Nix. Mm-hmm. We'll see on J.J. McCarthy. I don't think that one is locked in just yet.
What do you mean it's not locked in just yet? Really? Like, do you think J.J.'s got a shot?
I think we got to see what it's going to look like through the preseason here.
Okay.
This appears to be a real, hey, let's feel it out here. What they don't want to do is put J.J. McCarthy on the field a moment before that they have to. Sam Darnold was really good back in the spring.
Right.
I haven't been there through the course of training camp here. But if you don't feel like the guy's ready to go, I mean, I thought it was instructive the other day. Steve Smith and I were in Green Bay. Steve was kind enough to join our Jordan Love interview about 4 minutes in, ran into the Shocks, who's talking to his wide receivers over here. But Steve had asked a very good question to Jordan, which was about going back to when he was coming out of Utah State and how ready he felt. Basically, where was the growth from then till now? And Jordan basically said there was so much new. He wasn't even looking at the defense. He was just thinking when he was out there about what the offense was doing. He said, if I started my rookie year, I don't know where I'd be right now. It would have been a long journey. I think that's important to remember. As much as we're all like, hey, you got to go right now. If it's Drake May or even if it's J.J. McCarthy, who's played in a pro-style offense, he's as pro-ready as any quarterback. If you look at it in the preseason, you go, you know what? I think it might be good for him to sit for a little bit here. I don't know that any decisions have been made on that front.
And Drake May's out. Is there I mean, I know
It would be
Gerard
a
May
surprise
keeps,
on May for week 1. Again, he was the furthest, talking to coaches and scouts before the draft, he was the furthest away from being ready to play because that North Carolina offense is so rudimentary. He's a smart enough guy. He'll pick it up. He's young. He's like 20 or 21. Just got a long way to go.
Tom Pelissero here on the Rich Eisen Show. What did you glean from Chiefs camp? What do you take away? This is, as I keep mentioning here all the time, the number one story going to the NFL season is a three-peat campaign. We haven't seen this happen in 20 years, and this is as real as it gets. It's not like they've lost pieces or they've fallen off or they're dealing with injury, knock on wood right now. This is real. So what did you glean from Chiefs camp?
They are so fast. Hollywood Brown wasn't even out there. He was ill for several days, so he wasn't practicing the day that I was there. But you watch the number of different guys. Like, you get a ton in Andy Reid's camps. They're very physical. They put the pads on. They really work. But they also, they'll chuck the ball deep. They'll have fun. They'll run gadget plays. There was one that I think you can find on social media that involved a lot of different stuff going on that apparently they drew up like in the cafeteria the night before. They're like, hey, let's throw this in and see if this works in practice here.
Is that the one to Xavier Worthy you're talking about?
It's the one where there was a lot of the ball changed hands many times on the play.
Okay.
I don't know what the rules are on saying the specifics of it, but basically you have so many fast guys on that team because it's not just Xavier Worthy, it is Hollywood Brown and it's Rashee Rice and it's Sky Moore and it's Mecole Hardman. They have to have the fastest team in the NFL. And I understand Miami is a really, really fast team.
Yeah.
I will take, like, if you did like a one-on-one, right? Like your top 6, like stack it like a tennis tournament, where you have the top players versus in the seconds.
Or the Olympics.
I might say Kansas City could beat Miami from top down. If you took the top 6 on each team.
Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert,
Devon Achane.
Achane, right?
Put them up against
Waddle. I mean, and they just drafted a couple of kids too in the draft who are pretty darn fast too.
But the Chiefs have 6 or 7 guys who are all just straight up burners. And so they've got more weapons they've ever had. We'll see if Rashee Rice is out there week 1. That's still, the driving case is still to be resolved. But they've just got so many dudes on that team. And so you wonder, what's this going to look like? Last season, the offense wasn't very good. And we had Isaiah Pacheco on NFL Network, and we were asking him about it. And they all acknowledge the offense wasn't very good for most of last season, all the way until the Raiders kicked the crap out of them on Christmas. But then they found it, obviously, at the right time, and they won another Super Bowl. But if you think a team that the defense carried last year, that really took a while to find themselves, now you are more talented on the offensive side of the ball because the investment that you made there, this might be a better Chiefs team than the past 2 years that's now going to be going for the three-peat.
Tom Pelissero, also known as Baby Driver. Dude, did you drive back from here to Minnesota after doing the
How long do we got to tell the story, Rich? About 90 seconds here?
You know the clock.
So we spent that Friday show, TJ and I, talking about like, oh man, look at this global shutdown. What if I don't make it back? So I get out of here. I get to the airport. We're boarding the plane. They go, sorry, we lost the flight crew. The flight's been canceled, and there's no more flights till Monday. And and then the dude runs off, runs away. So I'm like, I immediately get on the app. I rebook for Saturday. Wake up Saturday, that flight gets canceled. Rebooked through Salt Lake City. Get to Salt Lake City, connection canceled. Make a call to Delta, one of about 15 that I made, and rebooked through San Francisco. Take a little nap on the bench in the Salt Lake airport. Wake up, I've been kicked to standby. Rebooked through Portland, Oregon. That flight then is delayed. I get a notification on my phone. My bag is not on the plane either. So I'm like, if I can find my bag, I'm driving. And sure enough, 1,200 plus miles later from Salt Lake City to Minnesota, beautiful drive through the hills in Wyoming. I made it back Monday afternoon.
That's amazing.
Hosted the Insiders from home on no sleep whatsoever. Nice night in Chamberlain, South Dakota, too. Underrated tourist city, Chamberlain, South Dakota.
And then zoomed in with Susie on that Wednesday.
That's right, I did.
Chamberlain.
Wow.
And Tom,
it never stops.
I believe that was the first show ever in history that Rich and Chris both missed. So you and I pulled something off that had never been done before.
Yeah,
right?
you were the CrowdStrike duo. Wow. Well, good job, Matt.
Appreciate it. 26 hours, 1,200 miles. I made pretty good
job,
time.
That's
Matt.
impressive.
80 miles an hour on all those highways.
Tommy P, everybody. Back on the Rich Eisen Show radio network, Tom Pelissero is here. I will ask you the same question about the Lions as I did about the Chiefs camp. What did you glean from that when you were there?
You know, they weren't in pads yet, and so, but just talking to people around there, I would say the primary takeaways are they really think Jameson Williams is in for a monster year.
Okay.
He's in a much better spot. Remember, the first year he's got coming off the ACL. He wasn't himself. Last year he had the suspension. There were times, like you saw Jameson Williams do cool stuff, but it was almost like, let's just find ways to integrate him and try to get him a few touches every game. They're expected to be the Jameson Williams.
So it's as if they drafted a top 10 wide receiver.
That's what it looks like. I mean,
Right.
The guy was the best receiver in the draft. He
'Cause
only
he
went
was.
where he did
Right.
because of the knee injury. So this is the first year that they think they're really going to see Jameson Williams. I would anticipate the backfield is going to be very similar. It's going to be Montgomery and Gibbs, kind of rolling with both of them again.
And here I am sitting from my chair in El Segundo, California, telling a guy who's an information individual of the first variety, fresh off of being at the camp, when I say this, I just get the sense Jahmyr Gibbs is about to take over. You want to talk about the guy to take over. And I understand, Montgomery was the king of, inside the 5-yard line. Mm-hmm. And also had some really bruising runs when he had, he could do it from the 20 to 20 as well. I get it. I just think this kid Gibbs, we were surface scratching a little bit last year with him.
No doubt. I think, and I was here, we were doing the non-negotiables, right, on all the different teams.
Yes,
Mine for the
yes,
Lions
chef.
was Jahmyr Gibbs plays like a superstar.
Chef.
I think he's got that type of ability.
Yes.
I also think they're going to be reluctant to just say, hey, all of a sudden he's getting 25 touches a game. It's still going to be a balance. They want to keep him healthy. But both those guys are very important. And Gibbs, I mean, I saw him in that game in New Orleans where he, made a bunch of plays.
Right.
I mean, he's a really, really talented player. They got some other guys they're excited about. Doris Fountain is one that everybody brought up to me because they're kind of trying to figure out who's going to be the other receiver along with Jameson and Amon-Ra St. Brown. You might see that guy playing quite a bit. And then defensively, they feel like they're in a better place. They hired Terrell Williams as their D-line coach, and they upgraded the secondary. They acquired a bunch of dudes. They haven't quite figured out who's starting and what it's going to look like back there. But like Brian Branch is probably going to be more safety than he was nickel last year. They think that that's going to be good. There's a lot of things that they're optimistic about. It's not like kind of the macro things, but there are reasons that they think this is going to be an even better team. And in terms of the vibe around that camp, it's a Dan Campbell training camp. It's always going to be the same.
Sure. So then the Packers were the last team that you have visited, and you mentioned how you had a chat with Jordan Love. And what did you glean? What's your takeaway from being around that team?
I think the biggest thing is from being there last year, every receiver and tight end on the team was a rookie or a second-year guy.
Right.
Now all those guys are second and third-year guys. They all came on, it seemed like, in various points
They sure did.
toward the end of last season. So you've still got a really, really young team. I think, this is going back to my Green Bay Press Gazette days, but that team last year reminded me of the 2009 Packers, where they were the youngest team in the NFL. They were the youngest team in the NFL perennially for like 5 years there because Ted Thompson didn't really do anything in free agency. They just constantly draft and develop. But that 09 team, it was Rodgers' second year as the starter. They go to the playoffs. They lose that wild
In
shootout
Arizona.
overtime game in Arizona. But then the next year they went and they won the Super Bowl. Like that's the vibe I get is they're young, they're working really hard. They got a really, really good locker room for what everybody's telling me. That defense, everybody was talking about it, including Jordan Love. I mean, they picked him off in I think it was a 2-minute drill that practice. Like they were playing really well. Jeff Hafley's just bringing a lot of different things. They're pretty intuitive in terms of the scheme. But they're going to be, everybody always says we want to be aggressive, but this is going to be a more aggressive. They're going to have more of a kind of, a lens through which they're trying to play defense. Where Joe Barry's skill was, he just Rolodex his calls. You never knew what he was going to call, because he'd call everything. This is going to be much more, hey, we're going to zero in on exactly what we do. We think we got really good players. Turn those guys loose and let them play fast.
Tom Pelissero here in studio on the Rich Eisen Show. So, listen, we know it's a midnight league, and by that I mean deals don't get done until midnight strikes or 12:01 even. Like these business deals take forever sometimes, right up to the minute, last second to do. But it kind of feels like we're entering the midnight zone in August, when padded practices are being missed by players that are holding in or out, and then preseason games in which they might normally play, holding in or out. Like this is the time where things have to get done. When do we see CeeDee Lamb get done? He's got to get done, right?
I mean, they've made
Correct?
an offer. They've made an offer to him.
What, do we know? Is it in the realm of Justin Jefferson? Or where
Here's
are we
the
on
thing.
that?
So CeeDee Lamb has an agent, Tory Dandy, who's done a lot of wide receiver deals, and they're always 3-year deals. They're always short deals. The Cowboys' history is they do the longest deals, the longest extensions of anybody. Strong cash flow, but in exchange, they do 5-6-year extensions. I don't really foresee CeeDee Lamb doing that.
So that's the holdup, is the length of contract?
It's more about structure, from what I understand, than just the value of it.
Okay.
And those things happen, between different teams. Dak Prescott's another one. He's in camp, he's participating, he's going to be out there regardless. And once camp begins, he kind of turns it over to his agent Todd France and focuses on football. I know that they would like to get something done with Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott has almost unprecedented leverage here. For however much leverage Kirk Cousins had last year, he was still a 36-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles.
So then what's
Dak
I hear you.
Possibly is going to be the guy with the most leverage of all time.
Of course, because he can't be traded, he can't be franchised, and if he goes into the season, he can then use the I'm not going to talk about my contract during the season and hit free agency.
And I think that's real. I think that if you get to week 1 and there's not been an extension, I think that he rides it out. And so the next month or so here is going to be important to see if they can find a pathway forward. It's gonna begin with a 6. I would be shocked if it's not $60 million plus. Maybe it's higher than that. And it might be a different structure, again, than we've seen in other quarterback deals because the guy's got the leverage. If you're Dak and you played out your rookie deal where you were on a 4th-round pick contract and you're making the minimum in 2019, you played that out. You played out 2020 on the franchise tag. You suffered a devastating injury. You still come back and you get a new deal in 2021. Like, the downside for Dak Prescott is pretty minimal. Like, he's already gotten paid. And so now for him, I can afford just to wait for the exact right deal. And for the Cowboys, you have to figure out, okay, how do we get something done that makes sense for all parties here? It might be a shorter term type of a contract extension. It might be something, the fully guaranteed type of contract extensions here, just because that's the point at which we are with Dak.
So then hold up is what the Joneses are saying. What happened to that space between 55 and 60? Everybody's hitting 55 right now from Green Bay to
the issue with the Joneses
Jacksonville.
Is they've waited.
Well, they've
waited on everything.
But that's the way they
that's
do
their organizational
business.
philosophy is kick the can down the road. And what that's led to is with the wide receiver market, everybody now is getting upper 20s, 30s, 35 in Justin Jefferson's case. And in the quarterback market, everybody this offseason got 50 plus.
So what's the deal with Ayuk? And obviously they're one of the greatest left tackles in the history of the game who's kind of waiting for an upgrade.
The Trent Williams one is unique because he's, pushing 40 at this point. He's looking for the type of upgrade that, like an Aaron Donald got, or even Matthew Stafford, who, if you broke down, I finally got, because that contract finally got filed and I got the full breakdown on it yesterday. If you look at Stafford's contract, it's not nearly as much of an overhaul as what Aaron Donald got from the Rams a few years ago. If you remember Aaron Donald, he had, I believe, 3 years left on his contract, and they put new money in, and it was like a true 3-year deal. With Stafford, they moved up money. He now has a $4 million guaranteed roster bonus next March. Basically, it's a 1-year, $40 million deal because he gave up his guarantees in 2025, which you don't see very often. So basically, he makes $40 million this year, and then if Stafford decides to play next year, then they'll have a discussion and they'll have to figure out a new contract. So there's no way he's playing on this deal. With Trent Williams, it's probably something along those lines. Do they shift some money up to get something done? You're not going to do like a big extension with the guy. I don't want to put it past him. Maybe he can play till 45 because he's a rare dude and he did take some miles off his body just with the time that he ended up missing in Washington here. But you're trying to figure out what's a fair type of a deal. Ayuk, the best thing that Brandon Ayuk has done for the past several months is not posting all the stuff he has on social media. It's just waiting. And waiting generally doesn't benefit the club. If you were looking at what the argument would have been back in March to do an Ayuk deal, then you look at all the other wide receiver deals that have gotten done, including DJ Moore yesterday. Ayuk now is in I talked with one team person earlier this morning, not with the 49ers, but another team, because listen, the 49ers are still getting calls. There's still interest in Brandon Ayuk. Nobody knows for certain which way this is going to go. And I said, well, what's the number on an Ayuk extension? 28? The answer I got was at least. It's going to be big, big money.
Well, it's going to be more
Brandon
if
Ayuk.
CD goes first.
And it becomes harder and harder then for the 49ers to get that deal done. So does that lead to Brandon Ayuk playing someplace else? What I could tell you, Rich, was before the draft, the price tag was really high on Ayuk. It would have taken a first-round pick, maybe more, depending where that pick was in the first round. When you're now talking about 2025 picks, you don't know for certain where a pick is going to land.
Right.
So it's probably a couple of picks in that case. Is it a couple, two second-round picks, something along those lines? It would have to be something really substantial. This is not the 49ers throwing up their hands and going, all right, forget it. We're giving up on this. We're going to give the guy away. That's not what's going to happen here. If they trade him, they're going to get something significant. But there's enough teams with wide receiver needs. The contract is the least difficult part of this. For Ayuk, if he goes to a new team, it's more about what is that trade compensation.
I just don't know why the Niners, with a Super Bowl ready team, would just trade Ayuk away right now. Unless I don't know.
Unless you can get a receiver in return, unless you can use whatever flexibility you free up, because Ayuk's counting like $20 million on the cap right now.
Okay.
All of a sudden you've got additional money. Could you pull another trade? Could you get somebody as part of a trade?
But I guess. Okay.
There's a lot of different things. You have to get creative in these things. This isn't Madden, okay? It's not, hey, we're going to send you these 3 players for these 2 players.
Right.
It's more, you're exactly right, which is why would the 49ers say, all right, fine, we're just going to move on from a guy for picks next year that don't help us now.
Correct. When you can win a Super Bowl right here and right now, and as the clock, we're up against the end of the hour. I appreciate you coming here, sir, and letting us know. And then driving home after a great week of sitting in this chair. I really appreciate that.
I got my fingers crossed. I really think my flight's going to take off tonight to get me to Arizona.
We still have the minute plus on Roku, so let me finish my sentence here. Give me the name of a team that's got a receiver that's even in the realm of Brandon Ayuk that would flip with draft choices to get Ayuk and pay that guy as much as he wants.
That's the whole complicated thing.
Who's out there? I mean, you hear all the craziness out of Las Vegas. That Devontae Adams is in that realm.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a Devontae Adams. I think it's something that we're probably not contemplating right now in terms of.
But John Lynch has that list on his desk.
Think of it this way: everybody knows who's available, right?
Yeah.
Because number one, you hear things through the grapevine, you get calls, whatever. But also, you can just look at the contracts. Look at who's not going to be able to pay this guy? Who's going into a contract year? What potentially could we do? I wouldn't give you a single name. I would just say if a trade happens here involving Brandon Ayuk, it quite possibly be a team you're not thinking of just because of the unique dynamics surrounding this situation.
The problem is if you're looking around the league and you're looking for somebody who might be cap stressed because they got to pay their quarterback or left tackle and could use a wide receiver, that team's the San Francisco 49ers. So the perfect answer would be pay him and keep him. Wow. Kind of crazy because then there's Jamar Chase that could go first in front of both of these guys, too. And complicated.
And that's a complicated deal to get done as well because the Bengals don't like to do deals early.
And then you got Trey Hendricks in there as well. Tom, say hi to everybody across the way for the Chargers. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern for free.